I am very honored to welcome our partners from Microsoft because they are bringing technology to communities, to conservation scientists, to indigenous groups, to farmers, to ranchers, and leveraging artificial intelligence to help us scale up these solutions and more effectively make impact. And Microsoft's been with us since the second year of the forum in 2016. And this year we have Bonni with us, and Bonnie's the head of partnerships and grants for AI for Earth, which is their arm of Microsoft to leverage their technology for conservation. Bonni is a conservation biologist. She discovered a new sea slug species in the Caribbean. She's been studying the climate adaptation of endangered penguins in South Africa. She has worked all over the world, and we're very fortunate that she's helping bring those technologies to conservation biologists everywhere. So with that, please join me in welcoming Bonni.
Thank you so much, Amy. I am so excited to be here with all of you today, not only because it's my very first time being in Idaho, which is incredibly exciting, thank you, but specifically to be here at the Sun Valley Forum with all of you. It's so incredible to have this room full of diverse minds coming together to think about what are some ways that we can innovate and create strategies and collaborations to have a more sustainable future for our planet. And so specifically today, I'm going to share with you a little bit about a future that we want, one that uses artificial intelligence technology to be able to apply these to solving some of the biggest environmental challenges that we're facing today. But before we sort of dive into the full technology side of things, I do want to start off with a penguin picture. I actually am not an AI expert by any means. I was trained as a conservation biologist, and I worked on projects such as studying poor heat-stressed endangered African penguins in South Africa because climate change was stressing them out too much, to working in Myanmar, where my grandmother grew up in a fishing community, and helping the Wildlife Conservation Society start their very first marine conservation program there. And when I had all of these incredible experiences working directly in the field, directly with these local communities, I couldn't help but be struck by the passion and the dedication that I saw. But there also was something that gave me a little bit of pause. I did realize that it felt like whatever we were doing never felt like it was quite quick enough. And so just one example of this is one of the projects we were working on in Myanmar is trying to save endangered shark and ray populations. And so we were setting up monitoring systems to try to track these vulnerable populations over space and time. But unfortunately, we just weren't able to get all of that data collected and then apply all of the predictive analytics quickly enough to actually be able to show and track these populations. And so this was an unfortunate situation where a fishing vessel actually caught an entire school of these vulnerable eagle rays and killed all of them. And so when I was out there and unfortunately looking at all of these carcasses, I kept thinking to myself, there has to be something that we could do in order to do all of this work faster. And so that's exactly what brought me to start thinking about technology as a tool and thinking a little bit more on a global scale. This has already been referenced on the stage a couple of times, but this IPCC report that came out, which said that if we want to avoid the worst impacts of climate change, we need to keep our average global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And we have to do this on a time scale that we, quite frankly, had not confronted before. We need to do this much, much quicker than before. And so with this report, people started to realize how urgent of a situation this is and how we really do need to leverage these technology tools to operate more quickly globally. And so we have built, as human societies, we've built societies, cities, industries on this planet, and all of this is based on this promise that tomorrow will somehow be, premised on conditions of today. And with a strong ability to actually predict accurately, then we're actually able to have confidence in our planning, and then can go forth and prosper. And that's exactly what humanity has done over the course of the past 150 years or so. But now we're going to throw in a wrench in the system with the increasing instability of our climate systems. That has ruined our ability to be able to do that predictive analyses, again, the same way that we've done before. And so now in order to keep up, we really do need to increase our ability to predict and plan in order to have an ability to have more scalable, sustainable solutions. And so given those realities, we believe that any organization needs to act across these three pillars with increasing urgency. So first and foremost, you need to minimize your own exposure to risk from environmental change. And so this means at Microsoft, for example, we do things like geo-replicate our data centers so that you could ensure the stability of providing cloud services, even if an extreme weather event hit, for example. We also want to think a lot about how to minimize the contribution to the problem, so understanding your own operational impact on the environment and working to cut that down as much as possible. And finally, to think about how you could actually maximize your contribution to the solution. So how can you think strategically and proactively about how to actually invest in solutions in this space? And so at Microsoft, we do have a pretty unique approach to how we are going out and embracing these opportunities that are being made available to us. We are one of the few companies in the world that actually places a real tax on carbon. And so what this means is that each one of Microsoft's business groups pays for every single metric ton of carbon that they are responsible for emitting. And so this actually could be incredibly beneficial because, number one, it allows the company to actually purchase offsets and operate as a completely carbon neutral company since 2012. It has also accelerated our path to using renewable energy because it places a real financial incentive to doing so. And finally, it raises a fund to invest in technology solutions to environmental challenges. And one of the ways that we invest in these new solutions is through this program called AI for Earth. AI for Earth was launched about 1.5 years ago and is a 5-year, $50 million commitment by the company to deploy the over 35 years of research that Microsoft has engaged in and investing those applying those advancements to work in 4 different topic areas: agriculture, biodiversity, climate change, and water. And so the way that the program works is that, as you can see, we do really like the power of 3. So there's 3 main principles that this program operates on. First, it's to acknowledge the fact that budget should never be a barrier to taking a tech-first approach to solving these environmental challenges. And to make these cloud computing resources truly accessible, we provide a number of different grant programs to be able to access the cloud and machine learning resources. Secondly, we realize that the world's leading environmental organizations aren't necessarily also the world's leading machine learning organization. And so we want to put together the education to be able to close that knowledge and awareness gap. And so that's exactly what we have. We have a comprehensive set of education and training materials designed specifically for the environmental space, available both online as well as through in-person training sessions and summits, where we bring together our entire community of AI for Earth grant recipients to help them connect and learn from each other. And finally, we do want to fuel innovation and allow for co-innovation together. You can imagine that it's very possible that the tech sector employs most of the people who are very able in the technology space. And so we want to take that talent that's already concentrated in the tech sector and make sure that it's available for these environmental organizations to access. And so we have a team of Microsoft researchers, data scientists, and engineers on hand to work directly hand in hand with our partner organizations to co-innovate and develop solutions jointly. This program is also designed across the same technology stack that the entire tech sector is built on. And so what this means is that we have a pipeline of infrastructure, data, algorithms, APIs, and applications. And we also have grant mechanisms in place to support development in every single one of these areas so that you're truly looking at a full ecosystem of tech solutions that are developed. I'll focus for a moment now specifically on that API piece. And so this is machine learning powered models that could then be applied directly to the environmental space and is made publicly accessible. What we really hope to do is are dedicated to building up this global portfolio of model-based environmental services that could be integrated into specific end user applications. And all of this is made available on our website alongside the code, the documentation, the training, the grant opportunities. So you could think of it as a one-stop shop to be able to access everything that you need to be able to bring in machine learning approaches to your organization. So to date, we've actually awarded more than 390 grants around the world with impact in more than 60 countries. And as you can imagine, with so many incredible partner organizations, I could stand here all day and talk about them. If anyone wants to hear more stories afterwards, come find me during the forum. I can talk about them forever. But I thought I'll highlight for you right now just two examples of the types of projects that we're so incredibly lucky to get to work with. So that you can see is an image of a whale shark, which are super cool if any of you have been lucky enough to be able to swim with them or see them up close in the wild. And so we've worked together with an organization called Wildbook, and what they've created is actually, you could think of it as kind of like a Facebook for animals. And it's super cool because all of this, again, is automated on their back end. It's working off of the premise that it's, again, like as I've learned from my firsthand experience, it's incredibly difficult to try to track wildlife and specific individuals moving across space and time, and you're trying to do tagging and trying to do all these like manual processes. What Wildbook has developed is they created algorithms to recognize from images that are captured and the unique patterns. So you can see on the whale shark, you have unique patterns of spotting across their skin. Zebras have unique stripe. Whales have unique fin shapes. So any sort of like unique shape or pattern, they're able to automatically use the algorithm to tag and say this is Willie the whale shark or Wilma the whale shark. And you actually generate these really cool diagrams of these animals moving in space and time and their friends and how they interact with each other. And so would look really cool in a video, less cool when I'm describing it, but I could send you guys a link so you could check it out later. And so Wildbook has now created wildbooks for more than 20 different species. This is continuing to be built out. And you can imagine this is exactly the sort of problem that I was facing when I was in person in Myanmar, where you can't track the animals quickly enough to be able to design plans to try to help save them. Something like Wildbook is exponentially increasing the ability to be able to do this much, much more quickly. And ooh, oh my, it's like all the diagrams are looking a little funny. But we could skip right across to the next project. This is another organization that we work with, and it's a startup called Sovietera. And Sovietera was founded by a forester and a computer scientist who met at Yale. And from that initial genesis, they worked to build the very first forestry inventory base map for the entire continental US. And so what this means is that they actually mapped out 537 million acres of land, processing 800 terabytes of satellite imagery data at 10 times the speed that anyone before them was able to do, and ultimately documenting 92 billion trees across the country down to their species, height, and diameter. And so now this is information that we never had access to before. And with data at this scale, we can empower the forestry sector with so many more tools that was not available. So Sovietera, as one example, is now partnering with the Nature Conservancy to aggregate small landowners and forest owners across the country, and together with new cloud-based blockchain contracts. I've now used both interesting words, AI as well as blockchain, and so allowing these small landowners to actually enter carbon offset markets that they previously were not able to because the cost of the overhead and the monitoring was too high for them to be able to invest in this. And so Microsoft has now closed the loop on this in the sense that we invested in the technology to make this monitoring available, and now we will be the first corporate purchasers of these offsets to meet our own carbon neutrality commitments. Oh, this one does work. Yes, perfect. And so on Earth Day this year, as part of the Nature Conservancy's Plant a Billion Trees initiative, we launched this interactive experience called the Tree Potential Project, which will allow the public to actually interact with and better understand Sovietera's technology. And so if you go to that website, you enter in your zip code, and you could explore the forest that is nearest to where you live. And you could literally, so this animation gives you a little bit of a sense of what it feels like, but what you're able to do is you're able to sort of cruise across the forest canopy, see the species that exist there, the open niches that could be exploited, the carbon sequestration potential, and much, much more. And all of this is possible from AI applied to high-resolution satellite imagery and deployed at scale on Microsoft's cloud platform. And so when people ask me sometimes why I would give up a pretty adventurous, fun life trekking across rainforests and tropical beaches and working directly to save our planet's biodiversity, um, I, I was like, I do really miss that, of course. But I realized that for us to fight for the future that we want, we do need to leverage the best technology that we have available. And so that means, right now, for me, the biggest adventure is sitting in a fluorescently lit office in a big tech company and working on Microsoft's AI for Earth program. And so I do hope that you would all be able to join me on this journey as well. Join us. To learn more, you could visit our website. You could check out our grant making processes and the work that our partners have already done and the really cool technology they've developed. If you like what you see, if you think something is applicable for work in your organizations, get in touch with us, get in touch with them. We want to help the synergies be made. And if you have an idea for something that you don't actually see existing on our website yet, awesome. Also get in touch, apply for a grant, talk to us. We want to help make it happen for you. So thank you so much again. Thank you for being patient through the tech troubles, and I can't wait to connect with all of you.